Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's really, really haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, the podcast. Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's really, really haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, the podcast. Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's really, really haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, Hollywood's haunted, the podcast.
Welcome to Hollywood's Haunted, the podcast. This is our first one, so be extremely detailed in how much you hate us in your comments. Also, I'm Patrick Bean, and with us is Jameson.
Hi there.
Why am I spacing on your last name, Jameson?
Carbonneau.
Carbonneau.
French Canadian.
Damn, I wanted to say Carbonneau, like
representing, bro.
Like the magician. I was just kidding. Thought you were going to perform for me, I guess.
Most people go with the hockey player, but I'll take it.
On my phone it says Jameson Hard Rock every time it rings. But yeah, Jameson is one of our best tour guides, next to Melinda, Drew, Ruth, and Teresa, and Tia, and myself. I'm just joking, Jameson. You're amazing. He's amazing. He's bowing right now for
you can't
see
the
people listening right now. But yes, this is our first podcast. Right now, we're kind of on a hiatus. Don't know when you'll be listening to this, but we're on like day something of quarantine, and then like day something of protest and unrest. And soon we'll be on day something of the fires that are going through Los Angeles.
It's coming, people.
Like, definitely. Did you see that fire on the 405 today?
I did. Apparently caused by some fireworks.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was? Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
Jesus
Shenanigans.
Christ. Oh, God, man. There's going to be so much fire this year. But yeah, so today we're going to discuss the Hollywood sign and Peg Entwhistle. If you don't know the story, well, then buckle up. But I'm just going to give you a little history on it first. So before the sign, I mean, it was fucking nothing. Like, Hollywood was just empty, desert. I mean, it was like a Western frontier, like right before. We're talking like late 1800s, like right before it, becomes a town or whatever. So it's just farms, cowboys, and of course orange groves. You gotta have orange groves.
Absolutely.
Later on, that was like right after cowboys. The cowboys died, and then orange trees grew. But it was even noted. Also, before I start, most of this information is from HollywoodSign.org. So if you guys want to look that up, there's actually some really cool pictures and shit on there. But it was actually noted by a few people that any land north of Sunset was considered completely useless except for grazing, which kind of makes sense why it was developed later on. It was probably fucking cheap at that time, so like making Hollywood into Hollywood was probably like, oh, okay, no one's going to use this shit. This is
large
this
quantities
is
of
terrible
land.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Paying not a lot of money for a large quantity of land.
It definitely made sense. I mean, especially as you go on through Hollywood history, like there was like everybody was broke, and all these studios were, I mean, the fact of movies themselves are literally sets, held up by fucking 2x4s. Like that's what Hollywood kind of was a set. Like people had invested, not millions, but millions today, at that with like the hype of, hey, hopefully we make more movies, and everybody thinks this is, I don't know, they created a tourist trap way back when, even.
Sure.
It was a trap.
That's actually why the Oscars were invented, to make money.
Right, yeah.
The guy who put it all together realized people wanted to have awards for things, and they would pay good money for it. So the more awards he gave away, the more money he would get to make more movies. So
that's right.
It basically just kind of came up. It was almost a sham just to get money. People were so invested in their egos that they were willing to pay money for these giant award ceremonies, and he could get the money to make his movies.
That's really interesting, actually. That's a trip. So there's several different origin stories for how the term, how Hollywood became named. a popular one is Diada Wilcox, who is the wife of the Wilcox family, who is founder of the Wilcox family, and the Whitleys basically founded Hollywood. It was basically, one of the stories was that she met a woman on a train who was referring to her Florida summer home as Hollywood, and the woman's name was Holly. I've also heard that she lived in Holly Canyon. I don't know if somebody was just writing a joke and needed a third, or something, you know what I mean? Like, also this. But then there was also the other one, which was in, I cannot remember his name, the Wilcox, H.J. Whitley was the one that founded it. So that's what I'm talking about. H.J. Whitley, he was basically the founder of Hollywood. He had founded 190 something towns before Hollywood.
Wow.
He's very, very wealthy dude. But supposedly Hollywood was his 200th town that he created, or
wow.
Brought together or whatever.
Interesting.
But in one of his memoirs, is stated that he was sitting, him and his wife were sitting on some valley, looking over at what was Hollywood, or what was going to be Hollywood. He had just purchased the property, and he said in his memoirs, and just so you know, this is just something I read. This is not in any way my feelings.
Disclaimer,
or anything.
people.
Disclaimer, yes. Something might be said that will be interpreted as racist. But he basically said he saw this Chinese man with a little rickshaw, and he was taking wood out down the path to another town. And he said that he nodded at the man, and the man said, Hollingwood. So apparently Hollywood came from a horrible racist interpretation of the word Hollingwood. That one's not a popular one, but I did find it, so I definitely had to mention that.
All right. Interesting.
So I guess we're going to fast forward a little bit to 1907. Nestor Films is actually the first film production company in all of Hollywood. And they produced 3 films, one a Western, one an Eastern.
An Eastern, interesting.
That's where the Hollingwood comes in, I'm sure. And then a comedy. And all 3 of those films costed $1,200. Which I'm sure back then.
Combined?
Combined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I'm sure back then was still like, we're
chunk of change right
definitely
there.
not mathematicians, but oh my god, dude, I literally just went like this to my notebook. I just tried to scroll. Dude, I just tried to fucking scroll. Oh my god, why is this? Oh my god, hold on, guys, we have some technical difficulties in my paper notebook. Oh my god, that's hilarious. It's a great thing we did not smoke. So we'll fast forward a little bit again to 1912. Everyone realized that Hollywood was the perfect climate and landscape to film a movie. I mean, you can go and get snow an hour away, not right now, but back then definitely. Or you could go to the beach an hour away, like literally living. I mean, we all know California's the case.
Very versatile.
Yeah, very versatile, and then the temperature is great because back then they were filming most of the stuff outdoors. Even if it was an indoor scene, they would just put up the set, and you would just not see the outdoors, So most of it was actually filmed during the day.
Interesting.
So when this started in 1912, basically everyone wanted in. And so 15 movie studios immediately just popped up. A lot of people say, this is also a popular thing with Universal Studios. They started out because they were basically trying to do a studio in New York, but Thomas Edison was a huge dick, kind of.
I've heard that before.
I don't know if we're going to be cursing on this, but I can bleep it out.
As you say, too late for that.
Dick fuck.
Earmuffs.
Yeah, so Thomas Edison was basically suing people that were using kinetoscope technology or something similar.
Okay.
Kinetoscope was what he created, which was kind of like the first
camera, right?
Camera that you could eventually...
Motion picture camera.
Motion picture camera, exactly.
Got it.
And he won most of these cases because he's Thomas Edison. He had tons of money and stuff, and of course lots of backing at that point too. But because of that, most people were just like, we're gonna get to the other side of the country, you know, and we're gonna try and do it in LA because he was in New York at that time.
I see. So a lot of films are being filmed in New York at this time, and they're all being picked off one by one by him.
I mean, it was mostly theater and stuff, you know, but because he had created the technology out there, and you know, people knew about it and were starting to use the stuff.
Interesting.
I can't remember who it was from Universal, but that was definitely an origin story for them as well. So a lot of studios.
So basically, he packed up and moved west, so he couldn't get sued by Thomas Edison.
Basically, yeah,
in a way.
yeah. I mean, of course, you know, you could get sued still, but back then it was
took a long time,
a lot harder. Yeah. So 1915, the movie industry is going crazy. It's buzzing, but it's cutthroat for studios because they were just so new to it. But it was great for the actors because there was just tons of people making movies, you know. And I mean, great for the actors. I say that living now, you know, looking back on it, but there's also a lot of stories of actors working like 17-hour days back in the day and then doing like 8 movies in a day or something like that. You know, that's an exaggeration, but they definitely were way overworked back in the day. Mostly because there wasn't unions and all that other stuff, and people were just high off the fact that we could make movies, you know?
It's a new format.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Exciting format.
Yeah.
As the story goes, I believe one of the first movies was a train or something like that. And people,
yeah, exactly.
People freaked out when they saw
like
it.
the train was coming at them, yeah. So we'll go 5 years forward to the 1920s. The Owens Valley Aqueduct System, they're, you know, trying to get water for the city, for Hollywood, so they had to, you know, take it from the Colorado River and stuff like that. But of course this angered a lot of farmers, and that's why you don't see tons of orange groves today, you know, because, you know, it didn't really work out in that fashion.
That's all Mulholland, correct?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Building his water aqueducts.
Chinatown.
Yeah, there you go.
So
and also that massive dam break that happened and killed a lot of people. That was one of the largest natural man-made disasters that killed a lot of people.
Yeah, that's not a popular one. We should do it.
That was an interesting time too. Middle of the night, the dam bursts and wipes out the whole valley.
Right.
Killed like 700 people, I think.
We should do one about that.
That's a very interesting one too.
It's gonna be episode 9.
See you in a year.
So once the aqueduct system came in, there was fucking water, you know, so Hollywood literally became like an oasis, in the sense mostly because celebrities were finally becoming, or not, I mean, yeah, the celebrity itself was becoming a thing, you know.
Sure.
And they were being well overpaid, and these celebrities were creating palaces, such as the Garden Court, the Chateau Elise, and the Garden of Allah Villas.
Ooh.
I know. It's not even that, you know, not cool. But it was like, it just sounds cool. Now I want to stay there. You know, it's like some shitty apartment too. Now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of the apartments in Hollywood had like super nice names, and then you get in there and like, this has never been remodeled since the 20s. Like, like cool, you know. Like I live in some place from the 20s, but damn, I would love a sink that's from now. You know what I mean? like there's definitely grime here from like Sinatra. So finally we get to the sign. 1923, the sign was born. It was actually created by Harry Chandler. It was 21,000 acre real estate development. And the billboard was a marquee at the time. It would light up. That was the original sign was, and it was 13 letters, if you spell it correct. Otherwise, it's like 19. But that was because it was Hollywood Land.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're saying it read Hollywood Land when it originally was erected.
Exactly. Yeah. And
it lit up.
I probably should say that. Yeah. Hollywood Land. Yeah. And it originally lit up. It would say Hollywood Land, Hollywood Land, Hollywood Land, and then it would go through that like
Cycle. So it blinked twice fully?
Apparently.
And then it cycled
that's,
through again?
That's what it said, yeah, on the Hollywood.
Did you get a count of how many light bulbs was on there?
Yes, 4,000 20-watt light bulbs.
That's a lot of light bulbs.
Which is funny, because 20 watts is really nothing. Like, I think this is like 60 or 80.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I mean? So you think about they had to put 4,000. You know what I mean? Like, that's like...
It's a lot of batteries.
That's like 500 light bulbs today, you know? Like, that's...
Seriously.
I don't know why I'm
But to see something up on the...
snuffing at a light bulb. Those stupid idiots with their...
Careful, you don't want to get sued by Edison.
That's all right, yeah, exactly.
Take offense to that joke.
So each letter was 30 feet wide, and then we talked about this before. Each letter was 43 feet tall.
43 feet tall. Okay.
And that was at the original sign, because later on we'll talk about that it was actually changed and then turned into just Hollywood. But it was actually remodeled a few different times, but yeah, we'll definitely get into that. And it sits atop of Mount Lee, which is by... it was named, well, not named, Don Lee actually owned it, so he actually was the first man who had exclusive rights to sell Cadillacs in California in the 1920s.
And he owned the mountain? He owned, and he named it after himself. That's very... I mean,
he was definitely a charitable guy, you know, he was humble, for sure.
Very humble.
Mount Humble was taken. Yeah, we'll go with my second.
That's in Pasadena. You can't get Mount Humboldt. That's Pasadena there. Mount Lee? All right, it works.
Is there a lake
Mount
I can put here that's just going to reflect my face? So yeah, he had the exclusive rights to sell Cadillacs in California in the 20s, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Cadillacs, yeah, that's an old brand.
No, but I didn't know that was a thing. You could have exclusive rights to sell.
You had
know
to
what I mean?
purchase.
Like, is that the same thing as like when, you know, Karl Malone buys a Toyota dealership or something? Like,
maybe
is that because he has the rights now to sell?
Yeah,
I don't know. This podcast is not about rights for Cadillacs. So he also bought KHJ Radio.
KHJ, okay.
Very, you know, not rundown radio. It wasn't like UHF or something. I'm sure it was a reputable radio station. But in 1930, he expanded for TV transmission and receiving technology, which was very... Most people didn't give a fuck about it, you know, because it didn't seem like a realistic thing, you know, transmitting video through the air, you know, if you think about it, especially in the 30s.
Is that where all those antennas and stuff came from at the top of Mount Lee?
Yes, exactly.
Right, so that was the
that's
first broadcasting spots, huh?
W6XAO, the Tinsel.
The Tinsel.
The Tinsel.
You're listening to the Tinsel.
You know what? I think that was mine now. I don't think that's a so December...
The Tinsel. It's a good call name for a Hollywood station.
Right.
That was Engelbert Humperdinck. You're listening to the Tinsel.
So yeah, and he did his December 1931. It started 6 years before NBC.
Oh.
So it's definitely original, and this was in Gardena. This was one of the first studios that he had set up. It was the first soap opera.
I was gonna say, is this a television broadcasting station?
Yes.
Okay. Not radio.
The first soap opera was called Vine Street.
Oh, well, there you go.
Right, yeah. It was like way better than Melrose Place could have ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And
what do you know why they call them soap operas?
No.
Most of the time that they were saying that a lot of their people that were supporting them, paying money for commercials, were soap commercials. So a lot of times you had soap products being advertised on these programs. Because, you know, it was mostly for women.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
like, I used to watch soap opera, like Days of Our Lives with my mom and shit when I was younger. Yeah, like it was like soap or detergent or...
Again, the woman...
soap in something.
Think about it, 1930s, 40s, you have your housewives, and so you're having all this advertising that's directed towards women. And so soap, cleaning products, things that you can do to use around the house to make sure your husband is happy and doesn't beat you up. You know?
That's crazy.
So soap operas is kind of the nickname that was given to them because there's so much advertising from that.
Yeah. What a trip.
So there you go. That's what this whole podcast is about. Finding out things we didn't know.
And that's the end.
Like, I didn't know I had gonorrhea until today.
Nice.
There you go.
Damn.
You know, fun fact.
We're not sharing a joint there.
Sorry about that. We'll have to edit that out later.
Just the sharing joint. Gonorrhea is staying.
The gonorrhea stays.
So 1938, fast forward a little bit forward. I'll stop after this and then we can talk about Peg Entwhistle. But yeah, 1938, Thomas Lee, which was Don Lee's son, he begins construction on the tallest transmitter tower in the world.
Wow.
And that was on top of Mount Lee.
Okay.
And as well as the tower on that same area was a state-of-the-art indoor and outdoor film facility.
At the top of the mountain.
Yeah, at the top of the mountain. It was dope. Like,
Interesting.
by today's standards, it
Sure.
was dope. Like he had
Cutting edge, huh?
Yeah, he had this like great outdoor sets, great indoor sets, and yeah, a fucking like swimming pool at the top.
Wow.
Suspended control room, jacuzzi. You know, it was like, I don't know, maybe it was just a fucking hangout spot for, you know, for Don Lee's son. Looking back on it, but I guess they did make a lot of films and stuff there out of that transmitting tower, which, if you think about it, because this was the tallest transmitting tower, he built that so there's all of his investment into this transmission technology would be worthwhile. So if you think about that, because he created that, this became the center of entertainment, the entertainment industry, because of that.
Interesting.
You know, because if you were in that area, you would get that transmission,
Sure.
you know? And then later on, you know, of course, they're able to extend broadcasts and stuff like that. The whole world can
So
see
he kind of pioneered the whole television thing.
Totally. I mean, definitely, you know, if you think about it. So yeah, I'm going to pass it off over to Jameson. We're going to talk about Peg Entwhistle.
Well, Peg Entwhistle, however you want to call her name, Lillian Millicent Entwhistle, whatever.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's
multiple names.
her original name, sorry. I jumped the gun.
Basically famous for the fact that she's regarded as the only person that's ever committed suicide using the Hollywood sign that you were speaking of earlier. To use it in the attempt or to help facilitate her dying. Unfortunately, it did not do a very good job in that. She suffered pretty badly when she landed and didn't die immediately. But let's go into a little bit of history about Peg Entwhistle. She was born in February 5th, 1908. And she actually wasn't born in the United States. She was born in Wales, which is an island just off of the coast of England. And she seemed to be an only child. I believe she was an only child of those two parents, but she did have some step brothers as well. What happened to her mother is not really clearly known. They think that she might have died after Peg was born, but there's no official paperwork or anything about her mom passing on. But her father was involved in acting, and he moved with Peg to the United States when she was a young child. She kind of moved. They said that she might have moved around to different cities like Ohio and whatnot, but basically she ended up in New York with her father and watched her father doing Broadway shows and acting, and so that kind of gave her the bug. The reason she went with the name Peg is that she actually saw a play called Peg, Oh My Heart, and she decided that she wanted to change her name from Lillian to Peg after seeing that show. Really inspired her, I guess.
Check that out.
Yeah, so
Is that playing?
yeah. It might be on Netflix, so you can check it out.
Sweet.
Peg Oh My Heart. I don't know what the play was about, but apparently it really struck a nerve with her, and she decided to take up acting. So she got involved in New York Broadway. She met her husband and got married. The husband was not... her relationship with the husband was very volatile. I believe he was accused of beating her and whatnot. And it caused a lot of negative press, if you will. A lot of bad karma. Sorry, let's just say negative press. But the commission that ran all the Broadway shows didn't like it. And so they kind of forced Peg out.
Crazy.
They were not happy with it, all the muck that she was kind of raking up by this ugly divorce that she was having through her husband, and so she was kind of blacklisted in a way from Broadway in New York. And around that same time, her father was actually killed in a hit and run in New York. And because of that, she was forced to kind of leave the New York area and go live with her uncle, who lived in Hollywood. So she moved out to California with her uncle, to her uncle, stayed with him, and got into doing Broadway shows here. She performed at the Belasco Theater with, I believe it was Humphrey Bogart and another actress, and she got rave reviews for it. The play did very well. By the way, I'd like to say she did such a good job that she actually inspired a pretty famous actress, Betty Davis. Was in the crowd watching her do a performance.
I had heard of this.
Yes, yeah. And apparently Betty Davis was so enthralled by her performance that inspired her to become an actress and to become one of the bigger actresses of her day. So it is a well-known fact that she's acknowledged, acknowledged Peg Entwhistle as her inspiration, if you will. So kind of fun, no? But she was basically doing Broadway from about 1925 to the early 30s. She moved out to California in early 1932, or maybe late 1931. Did the show at the Belasco, and then finally landed a role. She landed a movie called 13 Women, which was an RKO picture directed by David Selznick. And it was it was kind of a tawdry play. I think there was a lot of things that were, it was based off of a book, if I'm not mistaken, and there was a lot of sex and stuff in the movie. And so when the censors got to the actual film itself, they ripped the movie apart. There was a lot of things that they had to take out that they didn't want to leave in there. And so because of the censors, Peg's role basically was cut down to about an 8-second scene, I believe, something like that. It was, when she went from a major part to nothing, basically.
She was like Jared Leto in Suicide Squad.
Basically, yes, yeah. Luckily, she didn't send any dead rats to her co-stars or bullets or anything like that. So that's good. She did have that going for her. So maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe it's because she didn't do that she got cut from. I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, you really got to be part of the cast.
You gotta show them you want the film.
Exactly.
You want the part. You know.
If you don't get rats.
So
head back
here's
to
some
New
bullets and dead rats. So enjoy, everybody. Craft Services is over there. Yeah, so she gets the part, she gets the role, she's excited. They end up cutting her from the film, and then RKO Pictures didn't renew her contract either. They dropped it
because of how she did the picture. Or?
It wasn't that. I think they just kind of didn't really have anything to do with her, and there wasn't any parts coming around for her, so they just didn't renew their contract after the film was made. I don't know how much. Let's say pride they had in the film, because they didn't really seem to fight very much for it. The movie's only like an hour and 10 minutes long, so I think it was really edited and cut up pretty drastically. Damn. So it really it came out to tepid reviews. Nobody really kind of was like it. I think it was kind of like a pulp fiction type novel, and so I think it was just kind of a throwaway movie. It wasn't really, all the juicy stuff was left in the book, and because they had to cut all that out, I think the movie kind of fell flat. It was kind of like a perfect storm of things, it seems. Her getting cut from the role, them not renewing her contract. At the same time, she hears that her ex-husband is remarried and he's getting a resurgence in his career, so now he's landing roles that, so I think it was just kind of this perfect storm of jealousy and failure and whatnot that really prompted her to want to take her own life. A couple stories I read that said that she got pretty drunk the night that she killed herself. She was at her uncle's house, he lived on Beechwood Drive, which is very close to the sign, which may have something to do with why she chose that exact spot. She did leave a suicide note, but it didn't go into any major details. It didn't explain why she chose that spot, or why she was just despondent. I mean, basically the note read, "I'm afraid. I'm a coward. I am sorry for everything. And if I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." Signed P.E. So you're kind of getting a generic note saying, "I'm just not happy and I feel like I failed." And again, with no more information than that, you kind of have to make up your own assumptions as to why she would want to kill herself. So, so she got herself good and drunk and told her uncle a story that she was going out with her friends or something, and she walked up to the sign in the middle of the night. And when she got there, there was a ladder behind the letter H that she was able to climb up to the top of. And as you were saying earlier, those letters are about 45 feet tall, so I'm guessing you got another probably 5 to 10 feet below the sign because it's on such a steep cliff. And she threw herself from that. And when she landed, it appears that her femur was smashed or pulverized, if you will, and it didn't kill her. The fall didn't kill her, but she actually died about a day later or so. And she wasn't discovered for a few days. It was a hiker that was up there walking around, and she discovered a purse and a shoe, and then she found the note inside the purse, and then she found Peg. So, by the time they got up there and everything and got her down, she had passed away. But I don't believe that the fall did kill her. 45 feet is high, but not necessarily high enough to kill you.
Yeah.
Especially because you're not landing flat on the ground. It's on a side of a cliff. So.
And this may sound weird, but just the fact knowing that she was drunk, like, have you ever known somebody that's gotten in like a car accident or something and they were like asleep? Like in the back seat and they didn't get hurt.
Sure, they're so lucid.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because they were just kind of out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that could be
maybe
it.
That was a little bit of it. I mean, you're taking a painkiller before you go try and kill yourself. So, you know what I mean? Is like when I think about it.
Yeah.
Also, it's weird that they found her shoe, your purse, and then like.
Yeah.
It's still attached to her.
Yeah.
Like, any money in here? Oh my God, there's a fucking body.
Yeah, I don't.
That's crazy.
And then was she still alive when the jogger found her?
That's right, yeah.
There's a lot of interesting questions that come from it because, again, there's not a lot of details out there to kind of explain right after she jumped what happened. Did she lay there for a day, 2 days? It really doesn't kind of clarify specifically how long she did lay there, but it's definitely known that she didn't die on impact. The impact did not kill her, and they were saying that in the infection from the femur smashing could have been part of what basically ended her life.
Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, it's a sad thing. The press was all over the story. Nobody had really used the sign before in that way. But they dubbed her the Hollywood Sign Girl. That was the name. That's her nickname, the Hollywood Sign Girl, which is not very.
I don't mean
creative.
to be addicted. Yeah, that is not creative at all.
That's the best
man.
you got.
Like, the press has come up with some gems, but I say gems in a weird fashion, but
No.
it's usually fucked up.
That's true. That's not.
But yeah,
it's not a BTK name. It's not a it's not a catchy.
There's nothing catchy.
The
about
Hillside
that,
Strangler. It's not. Doesn't have a good certain ring to it.
Whoever found that first was just too excited about it and just didn't go with a good.
Well, also you got to think back then that this is back in the time when the newspapers are coming out anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day, and you have to jump on the story. So it's like you're rushing to get a story out,
right? Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
You're just trying to be the first one.
The Hollywood Sign Girl.
You got to get the scoop. Get the scoop on that kid.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just like, are you sure?
Hollywood Sign Girl, run with it. Front page news sounds great.
That's like way too many syllables. It just doesn't flow at all.
So that was the nickname that she got. She was buried. Funny enough, I live in Glendale, California. She was born in Glendale, Ohio. She was buried. So back in Ohio, I believe.
Probably related.
Yeah, right. She had a family. So don't go looking for her grave in Glendale, California. That you will not find it. Yeah, so she was buried down there, and it was a sad thing. There are rumors that she received a letter a day or two in the mail after she passed away, saying that RKO Pictures had found another movie for her to be in, or that she had landed a role in another, like in a stage show of some kind, and that she could possibly be the main character in that. So there was some rumors about a light at the end of the tunnel had she not killed herself, that her career could have had a second resurgence or whatever. But that's not ever been proven, I believe. I think that's kind of a rumor.
There's the letter, the phone call, it's whether or not it actually happened is definitely hearsay, but it's a trip to think about.
So yeah, I mean, that would have been obviously ironic had she died. Then lands the biggest role of her life 2 days after she killed herself
in the play called "The Biggest Role of Your Life."
It was written by a guy who came up with the name the Hollywood Girl, the Hollywood Sign Girl.
Right. Yeah.
Same author, same writer. He's very, very clever. but we, you know, this whole thing is about us running a ghost tour, and we'd like to talk about the Hollywood sign because, of course, it's such an iconic thing for people. People come out, you know, all around the world to see that sign, to take photos with it, to climb up to it, to hike it, to get as close to it as they possibly can. And she was kind of the first person to, like I said, the first and only person really to ever physically jump off of it, kill themselves using the sign itself as a means to an end. But a lot of stories have come around the fact that people that are hiking in that area still see Peg from time to time. This story didn't really happen until the sign started falling apart in the 40s. And from what I understand, the letter H fell down, which is obviously the letter that she jumped off of. And so when that fell down and collapsed, there was a lot of rumors saying, "Oh, did you know that the sign is haunted, and that's why." Because she jumped off the H, and that's what made it fall down.
Even the letter's trying to kill itself.
Yeah, right. I heard in actually another movie, I think it's like Percy Jackson or something like that they use the letter H as a gate to hell or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. So, and I was like, ooh, shit, that's fucking accurate.
I guess the letter H is very notorious for being an evil thing in the city of Hollywood. So, but yeah, so when the sign fell, the rumors started around that she was haunting the area. Hikers have seen her from time to time, usually around dusk, but a lot of the park rangers claim to see her on foggy nights. Now, I think that's convenient, that you see a ghost only when it's foggy. You know what I mean? Like,
is that like,
well, that's convenient.
Is when ghosts want to come out?
You know?
Like, oh, it's such a nice foggy afternoon.
Of course.
Like.
I'm seeing swirls of, you know, things that look like ghosts because it's foggy outside, you know? So
because it looks like a lake of ghosts.
Yeah, pretty much. So I thought that was a little bit too convenient. However, there is a very well-known story of a couple that was hiking along the trail in the early 90s that came upon a woman dressed in that time period's clothing, walking around looking dazed, just kind of out of it. And when they were kind of approaching her, she just vanished in front of them, and that really freaked them out. But they did clearly see this woman in 1930s clothing, again wandering around looking like she's confused. It was around dusk. I don't think it was too dark per se. I mean, you're not really supposed to be up there at nighttime, nightfall, anyways. Mm-hmm. But they clearly saw her, and then she just, like I said, vanished. So that really got a lot of press because of that story. They were the only people that were like specifically talking about seeing that. I did get another story of 3 friends that were hiking up to the sign and said same thing, that they saw this woman that looked like this, having this nice clothing, blonde hair, but again looking confused, looking dazed. But the funny part that seems to accompany all the stories is that they get this smell of gardenia, which is apparently a perfume that she was very well known to wear when she was alive. So that would be odd. Their gardenias don't grow up in that area, so that would be interesting, that if you were to smell that, where would that smell be coming from?
Right, yeah.
So those seem to be the stories that come out of that area, basically around the base of the sign or in that area along the trail that she's usually seen. So again, if you're going on maybe a foggier night or when there's a little bit heavier mist in the air, that's probably your best time to try and see Peg.
It's usually when I go out. It's like heavier mist.
Who doesn't want to go hiking in the mist?
Just to jump on the end of that, I'm going to kind of say where the Hollywood sign or Hollywood kind of went up, from then until now. But we'll definitely jump back into some ghost stories.
Sure, and I got some, like I said, I got some stories about Griffith as well.
Park, that's right, yeah.
So, please.
The Peg just ruined the Hollywood sign, but no. Tragedy, it's not fun. But Hollywood was kind of in for it. In the 1960s, porn arrived, basically. And
God bless it.
It was, good for porn because the movie industry, the industry itself was just in the shit. Not in the shit necessarily, but like Hollywood itself was just not good. It was just mostly people were realizing they could film other places and get tax rebates and stuff like that, or tax cuts.
So it wasn't the mecca for filmmaking that it was in the 30s and 40s?
Well, there was because some people blame it on porn, but I feel that porn blossomed in a industryless city. you know, because it had focused so much on movie and film and television, you know, that I feel like a lot of people just got kind of lazy with it, you know. I mean,
All right.
but no, so yeah, porn arrived, but yeah, a lot of people blame that as like ruining the industry, but it's also thought that because the industry wasn't doing good, porn decided to blossom because they had film crews to work with that weren't working. You know, they basically created this industry, you know, that we know and love today.
Well, now I got to go back and watch Boogie Nights and see what happened.
Right? Yeah, that's why I watch it, for the historical references. But yeah, it brought in porn, massage parlors, porn shows, adult bookstores, but mostly it brought in tons of drugs. Drugs was that kind of is known for ruining Hollywood a little bit, was, you know, just tons of people doing drugs and not doing anything else.
Well, I mean, I think the city was always debaucherous anyways. It's just, it phased from, let's say, sex and drinking to hardcore drugs and partying. So,
exactly,
you know,
yeah.
You've always had your
and then
bad
the
stuff
60s were kind of, you know, the generation of the hippies and this time of love, but also the time of racism and segregation still. You know, so it doesn't really make sense. God, I keep trying to scroll in my notebook. So we're going to fast forward a little bit to the 70s. The LA Cultural Heritage Board gives the Hollywood sign landmark status. And the ceremony is hosted by silent film star Gloria Swanson.
Really?
Silent film star, you know what I mean?
In 1970?
That's apparently, yes. Like, because she was so original, I guess.
Now, stop me if I'm incorrect on this, but we were talking about 1949, the sign falls down, the letter H falls down. So now the impression that I got is that the city of Los Angeles is like, well, this sign is falling apart. It's now, you know, almost 25 years later that this housing development has been developed. It's long gone now, or it's no longer new. Mm-hmm. Let's tear the sign down. And then Hollywood asks to keep the sign itself. Is that correct?
I think I get to that. 1 second.
Sorry to jump the gun here.
Yeah, you gun jumper.
Because you're in the 70s now, so I want to make sure, because I think this is 1949 that they drop. That's when they dropped the land off of Hollywood land, correct?
Yeah, I mean they dropped the land off in the 40s because of the H, basically.
Right.
And then the whole sign is new.
Right. They replace all the letters, they drop the land, they take the light bulbs off as well, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
1949 is when the last time it was lit up, the sign was completely lit up.
Yeah.
So now you have the city paying for it, or the city, let's say, supporting the sign, and now it just reads Hollywood. Boom. No lights.
No lights.
Brand new sign, but no more Hollywood land.
It's dark at night, yeah.
Dark at night. All right. So stop asking it why the sign isn't lit up, people. It hasn't happened in 75 years.
God, it's not coming back.
It's not coming back.
So they actually thought that the whole ceremony was it was a weird ceremony. I mean, it's already hosted by a silent film star, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
But a thick fog remains at the event.
Interesting.
But apparently it was super thick. Like, you could barely see, 3 feet in front of you.
So they were doing the ceremony in front of the sign,
in front of the sign.
Okay,
yeah.
So they're way up in the mountains now at this point.
Which is hilarious, So this ceremony happens, but yeah, nobody can really see it, so it's over and done with very quickly.
I wonder if the silent film star was like miming everything, like, because she's up there not being able to talk, and it just had this like piano player on the side.
And then somebody coming by with some cue cards every now and then. That's hilarious. So Hollywood, 1975, is visited by John Paul II. So yeah, the Save the Peak campaign happens because the Hollywood sign is in total shit. It looks bad, so everybody's like, also...
This is late 70s, yeah?
This is, 75.
75, okay.
And it's costs about $12.5 million, and each signed letter was auctioned off for $27,700. Hugh Hefner started the Save the Peak sign.
Okay, so he started the campaign to
He started the campaign.
Save the sign, man!
Purchased the land, I guess, technically, back when. But Hugh Hefner started with a $1 million donation, And then the signed letters were auctioned off for $27,000. The letter H was purchased by Terrence Donnelly, who is a newspaper publisher. The O was Alice Cooper, legendary rock star.
Classic.
The L was Les Kelly, who is the creator of Kelly Blue Book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I also heard that Alice Cooper purchased a letter for a friend of his.
Oh, really?
And that friend was Groucho Marx.
Oh, I don't see that.
So I read that he they were friends. Go figure that Groucho Marx and Alice Cooper are good friends, but apparently he bought it in his name. So
he gave the O to Groucho Marx?
I guess
Crazy.
He purchased one or one of the L's and gave the other one to Groucho or something like that.
Yeah, I don't see that here. I think that might just be a rumor.
They would have a friend.
So one L was for Kelly Blue Book. The other also, this was just the original people that had purchased.
All right.
So this, 1970, so things could have changed. Gene Autry was the other one.
I heard about Gene Autry.
L. Y was Hugh Hefner. Should have the two O's. W was Andy Williams, amazing singer. The first O was Giovanni Mazz, who of course is an Italian guy. So he was a movie producer, I guess, back in the day.
All right.
Nothing really notable. And then the last O was purchased for Warner Brothers Studios, actually.
Warner Brothers Studios, yeah.
And then the D was Thomas Pooley.
All right, so maybe Alice purchased that letter himself and then donated it in his honor or something.
Or maybe one of his friends is, maybe Giovanni Mazzi.
Maybe
Thomas Pooley. Or maybe he was good friends with Gene Autry.
Who knows? Gene Autry. Which there's a Gene Autry museum in Glendale if you're ever interested in learning more about cowboy culture.
I've always wanted to look at that, actually.
Across the street from the LA Zoo.
Right, yeah.
It's actually a pretty decent museum. I give them a little plug, but it's definitely a lot of Western history. If you're into, they have both realistic and television history. So you have your,
cool.
You have your Lone Ranger and Gunsmoke and whatnot, things like that. So you have a whole section of that, and then you have your real westerns where you have real weapons, you have real stagecoaches, saddles, Native American things. So there's a lot of cool Western history from this area, all in one nicely made museum. The museum is very very pleasant, very nice, very clean, and well organized. And especially if you're into guns, old Colts and weapons from the late 1800s, early 1900s, they have a lot of weapons there. A lot of weapons, a lot of swords and scabbards, and even an old like a machine gun, Gatling machine gun. So they have a lot of weapons there. Very interesting. So if you're into that scene, I would say go to the Autry Museum and check it out. So
that reminds me of I don't know if I ever told you this, but when we used to do tours through the Peg Entwhistle, I know both the guy that runs the back room and the Mike that runs the front, but the dude in the back, he was telling me that the ghost that was seen there a lot was a cowboy, and that he believed it was Wyatt Earp because Wyatt Earp apparently came to Hollywood and was a consultant for Western films. I have not researched that.
Yeah,
I
don't stand behind that story.
But also this. He's been around for a long time. That Mike telling me the story. So he's no reason to lie to me.
Sure.
Whatever, but also I was like, oh, that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Very cool.
John Wayne didn't pick it up anyway. But yeah, what's up with Griffith Park?
Yeah, Griffith Park. Griffith Park, for those of you who don't know, is a very large park basically in the center of Hollywood, kind of cutting the city in half, if you will, by this large mountain. Again, we were talking about Mount Lee, and I believe Mount Lee is kind of maybe considered part of Griffith Park, but I don't know if it falls entirely under that jurisdiction.
Griffith Park is so huge, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's very massive. Yeah. If you're into television and whatnot, many shows have been filmed there, and many famous structures are there. You have the Griffith Observatory, you have the Greek Museum, the Greek Theater. You have a lot of major establishments that are on this. The Griffith Observatory is been there for a very long time. A little bit of history about the park is that it was owned by a Mexican rancher. His name was Don Antonio Feliz, and he owned the land. And as he was getting on in age, he was starting to get very sick, and he needed to start to write out a will. And as the story goes, he had a niece whose name was Petronia. Petronia, I don't know, very interesting name from back then, but Petronia basically felt that she laid claim to the land, that she should be next in line. But apparently when the lawyer and another person were there writing up the papers to Don Feliz, who was very ill at the time, the story goes is that there was a stick behind his arm kind of having him write, and they were making him write out the land to somebody else. And so as the papers were signed off, the land was given away to one of his men or something, and he was able to kind of con the land out of the people.
I mean, if you can write in someone else's handwriting using a stick,
kind of controlling his hand,
you kind of deserve the land.
Yeah,
you're a magician. At that
smart guy,
That's amazing.
He's kind of using him as a ventriloquist or something. This guy, yes,
he also did a song and dance. Didn't expect that.
He said he was. I
guess that's how you finalize a contract.
I guess so. So that kind of thing flew back in the late 1800s.
That's
there.
crazy.
But she cursed it. She said that she put a curse. She put a curse on all the land, and of course, making sure that she was not happy that she was getting screwed out of her what should rightfully be hers. So she put a curse on the land. The guy who signed it, or who was given the land, quickly sold the land to the other gentleman that was there, and that guy was killed soon after that. He died of some causes. I forget what it was.
What time period is this?
This is like late 1800s, like 1870,
so,
1880.
Crazy.
He gets the land, and then when he dies, a gentleman named J. Griffith gets the land, and he buys up all this land, and he decides that he's going to donate this chunk of land now known as Griffith Park. He's going to donate this land as a Christmas present to the city. So this is about 1890 or so.
This is swell guy.
So he donates all this big chunk of land to the city, and a couple of other, disasters, if you will, happen. So there's actually a plaque on one of the trails, if you read it, that kind of commemorate these men. There was a bunch of men that were in the fields, kind of clearing the fields, and a fire started, and these guys kind of went to try and get the fire to put the fire out, and they died. So there was a good quantity, I think about 20 to 30 people died in this fire. And so there is a plaque on the way up to, if you decide to hike up to the Hollywood sign, that was, I believe, recently just put in there to kind of commemorate their lives. So a lot of people feel that the park is cursed. They've seen, there's been sightings of ghosts, but it's funny. A lot of the park rangers, if you will, have said that they feel that the ghost stories are nothing compared to what really happens in real life there. I mean, I say in real life, but they say, you guys do not even believe half the stuff that we find in this park. We find, animal sacrifices and satanic rituals and, this, that, and the other thing. And they're like, we come across this stuff all the time. And it's way scarier and freakier than a supposed ghost story that happened.
I mean, that's how I always feel. Like, that's why I'm not a big fan of ghost hunting, because they're constantly going into places that, like, if I was, like, homeless or fucking just high on something and I couldn't be in a house, I might go into some of these places because I know no one else is going to be there.
Sure.
I'm not going to walk into somewhere and be like, oh, I'm going to get an EVP and like, oh, fuck, this dude stabs me, because I'm invading his space.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's unfortunately that cool of a story for Griffith Park, but I do have one more quick story that I thought was kind of funny, and that is the man that was so generous in giving us this land was oh man, what's the term I'm thinking of? Well, anyways, he was a sober guy. Supposedly, he would practice. I forget, a teetotaler. That's the term. A teetotaler is somebody who refrains from any kind of alcohol. You don't drink any kind of spirits or anything like that, and that was a term that he would use. That he was a teetotaler. However,
like you're toting a tea drink?
Yeah, I guess. Maybe you use tea instead of alcohol. You would be drinking tea all the time if you're at a party or whatever.
That makes sense. Like, I see a lot of alcoholics doing that with, like, lemonade and stuff.
Sure.
Too, yeah.
So that was a term, at least back then, that for somebody that was, I don't want to say straight edge, but,
straight edge.
somebody who didn't, because straight edge, they don't smoke cigarettes, they don't do anything. There's no substance that goes into your body. Mm-hmm. Whereas opposed to a teetotaler, maybe just doesn't drink alcohol, but maybe they smoke cigars or something like that. So,
I mean, what's better with tea?
Damn straight.
Nice
Crumpets? I don't think so. But yeah,
so roll up this tea thing.
Yes, well, maybe that's what smoking tea is all about. But yeah, he donated this land. Was a hero to the people of Los Angeles, but he was not a very nice person to his wife. Apparently, this is about 10 to 12 years after he's donated this land. But his wife and him decided to take a kind of a day vacation down to, I believe it was in Santa Monica, that he was in a hotel, and they get in an argument, and he is completely drunk, annihilated drunk, and he starts to accuse his wife of infidelity, and he insists that she admit to him that she's cheating on him, and tells her to get on her knees, which she does, and he then pulls a gun out and shoots her in the face. Now, when he did this, he shoots her in the face. She doesn't die. She does receive a wound from it. From the story I read, she staggered backwards and fell out of a window, falling onto like a ledge below, and it rolls off the ledge and survived. He's arrested and goes to jail for attempted murder, but I believe he only did about 10 years or so. And she survived, but she was horribly disfigured because of this. But yeah, so maybe not the greatest guy, but yeah, got out of jail and basically just kind of lived the rest of his life. He died soon after that. Yeah, that's the guy gets a park, gets a statue, gets the observatory.
Where so many people are taking their dates.
Yes, yes. So the guy we did all this wonderful stuff for shot his wife in the face. So good times on that one.
She didn't die. She's horribly disfigured.
Yes. He gave the money to when he died, all of the money that he had went to the observatory to be built. So basically all the observatory and the park and everything are because of this wonderful, wonderful man.
I mean, at least he died.
It's true. He did die, as do we all.
And gave us his money.
And apparently he's not haunting the area too much. For those of you that do want to take the walk up to the Hollywood sign, that do, or that are interested in seeing possibly ghosts or whatever, this isn't necessarily a ghost story. However, it is a kind of an unsettling story. A woman was walking with her dog and found a severed head had been placed up there on a trail. Okay. They found this head. They called the police and they investigated. They found soon thereafter feet and hands buried in a shallow hole close by. It appeared that they had all been wrapped in a bag. And they were thinking that maybe possibly some animals had kind of scratched them up, and that's why the head was found. But they did some research. They arrested a man who was basically found. He was a 38-year-old man, and apparently he was living with a 66-year-old roommate who ended up being his boyfriend. And they had an argument, and he strangled him, and then dismembered the body and brought the body parts up to the Hollywood Hills there, up to the Hollywood sign area, and disposed of those parts up there. Yeah. They did. This is in 2000. The head, the hands, and the feet were found in 2012. He was convicted in 2015. And apparently, when they were trying to find or gather evidence on him, when they found his computer, they found a search that he'd searched up, quote, "how to eat a human carcass" on the internet.
So he ate the torso and all.
That's implied, never proven, but both the hands, the feet, and the head were found, and I don't believe anything else was. So unfortunately,
there isn't much meat on the hands.
It's true. That's true.
I guess that makes sense.
You want to eat the good stuff. Go for the ass first. That's the best part. But yeah, a couple of body parts found up in the woods there. So be careful what you're kicking around up there. It could be somebody's head.
It's crazy, and it's funny. I read that they're talking about the security up there, and the article at the HollywoodSign.org says that it's more secure than Fort Knox, and that there's that there's 75 cameras and some ungodly amount of sensors.
Oh,
and
I see.
stuff.
I see. On the sign itself?
And yeah.
Okay.
But I still think that's bullshit.
I mean, I can see a lot of cameras. I mean, there is a lot of, like you were saying earlier, there's all those radio antennas and things like that. And that's literally like, 50 yards from the sign.
Right.
So I could see that area being patrolled at least
I can
somewhat.
see it being patrolled, but
Let's go now with Fort Knox now. I think that's a little...
There's not fucking gold up there. Like, come on, man. Like, and I was just like, I think that might be the HollywoodSign.org being like, please don't come to the Hollywood. Please don't fuck it up. This is what our website is based on. If you take it down, it'll be gone.
Yes, cameras.
I forgot to mention. I don't know. Did I not fucking even get there? That it was changed to Hollyweed for a while.
Hollyweed, sure, yeah. The prank in 2016.
No, it was done in the '60s too. I guess.
Get out.
Yeah, and that's why they did it. Was to do as like an homage.
So somebody put Hollyweed.
No, sorry, early '70s maybe.
Really? But somebody put up Hollyweed on the sign prior to the.
And they'd just done the black cloth like the other people had done it, So I'm pretty sure, they'd done that as like I wonder if it was the same date. I'll have to look that up.
Interesting.
Homework for the listeners.
Was it on April 20th?
It better be.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, man. All right, so that is our first Hollywood's Haunted podcast. If you're interested in more, hit that subscribe button if there is one. If not, I can always edit that out. And make sure and share, because sharing is caring, and so is scaring. Sharing is caring, and so is scaring.
That's pretty good.
That's going to be our tagline.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys learned some fun facts about Hollywood, especially if you live out here. You can learn some new stories and tell your friends and family.
Well, and that's another thing. If you want to check out more stuff on Hollywood's Haunted tours, go to hollywoodshaunted.com. But yeah, we're signing off. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Hollywood